always played casually online, now has a chance to make a name for themselves in Players Cup 3. Gonna be playing that Lucario and Melmetal GX deck alongside Zacian V on Chris Jones's side, and then Christian, of course, rocking out with that Pikachu and Zekrom GX, combined with Boltund V, Mewtwo and Mew, Raichu and Alolan Raichu. So many moving pieces here, and I'm excited to see how this one is going to shape up.
This is definitely one of the more intricate matchups currently in our standard format. There's a lot of multiple routes both players can take to try to advance to the next round in the losers bracket, and we're going to see all of that action right now for you guys. So let's go ahead and jump down into the match between both these players. It's going to be an exciting one. I can already feel it, as it looks like Chris will be deciding who goes first in this match, as it appears that I believe Chris opted to go first. So again, feels like a similar match where both decks want to go their own route. In this case, Chris wants to go first with this Lucario and Melmetal deck, while Christian wants to go second so they can get off a turn 1 Electrify.
Yeah, this is a matchup that, we've seen played out a lot in this standard format. You mean people playing it from both sides, and it really does feel like a matchup that can go either way. It's really tough to put an edge on either side of this matchup. If anything, I think I'd have to give the slight edge to Lucario and Melmetal overall in this Pikarom, in this specific matchup. But it really can be won by either player, so I'm really excited to see how these guys are going to approach it and who's going to end up coming out on top.
Yeah, this is what we would consider close to a 50-50 match, depending how draws go, of course, between both these players. Taking a look at both these lists, Christian is playing a similar list to what we saw another Christian, actually, Christian Chase, playing. We got a bunch of Christians here. Between the regular list, this one only playing one copy of Mewtwo and Mew, but still playing similar counts of Pikachu and Zekrom, the Raichu and Raichu, and all of those fun stuff, as well as we look at Chris's list. Is playing some interesting inclusions in this. It is the tag call variant, playing copies of Guzman Hala, as well as multiple special energy, such as you saw in that mulligan, the capture energy and the coating metal energy. So playing a little bit, I guess, of a slower version of this deck, wants to take turns to guarantee attachments. And this is going to be a pretty nice start here for Christian on the first turn. Has the speed lightning energy and some great cards off of that Crobat Dark Asset. Again, such a powerful ability. Has 2 search outs now. Could possibly find some stuff like that Raichu and the Pikachu and Zekrom, and even put that in the discard pile and utilize Mewtwo and Mew to give you a little bit of extra HP, or we'll just see this play where the Pikachu and Zekrom gets grabbed, and we're just going to see an Electrify, throw some energy onto it, and get ready to start firing off a full blitz the following turn.
Yeah, I think the best strategy for Christian is to start with Pikachu and Zekrom. The Mewtwo and Mew is really good in this matchup still because, well, normally I should say, because it gives you the versatility of using either Full Blitz or Tandem Shock. Obviously here from Chris, we already see that Power Plant in play, which is going to slow Mewtwo down quite a bit. And then, of course, Lucario and Melmetal is resistant to Psychic. So normally what I've liked to do as the Pikachu and Zekrom player in this matchup is lead with my Pikachu and Zekrom and try to get the Full Blitz onto the Mewtwo and Mew. So you try to deal with the Psychic resistant Lucario and Melmetal quickly so that later on in the game you have that versatility of Mewtwo and Mew when you're attacking into Zacian Vs.
And that was a big turn for Chris. Did find the metal energy on Lucario and Melmetal. As I've seen in my experience playing in this match, getting a Steel Fist onto the Boltund followed up by a Heavy Impact is a great way to apply pressure with Lucario and Melmetal and save your full metal wall. But in this case here, not being able to get that Steel Fist off means the Boltund has free reign to pretty much start dealing some damage to this Zacian V. And that's exactly what Christian is going to do. 130 damage, setting up a 2-shot onto this Zacian. And now you're put in a position where what is it better to do? Do you just hit into the Boltund? Now it has a bunch of energy in play. Now it's hitting for even more. This is where the big decision comes in. But tag call, we could be seeing something like the Malilana come down, which we do see get grabbed off of there. Would be able to heal all but 10 damage off of this Zacian V, and also switch into that Lucario Melmetal, and then we could see the play where we see a Steel Fist followed up by something like a Heavy Impact.
Yeah, we'll see what Chris goes for here. I like the play, obviously, of the Steel Fists into the Full Metal Impact. It does feel like getting rid of energies with the Full Metal Wall off of a tag team is normally stronger. But in this instance, Boltund is already hitting for a really solid chunk of damage, so it feels really bad to let your Lucario Melmetal go ahead and take another big hit. So looks like Chris is just going to go with the strategy, gets rid of the 2 energies on the active with the Full Metal Wall, and now for the rest of the game, all of Chris's metal Pokemon will take 30 less damage from Pokemon's attacks.
Yeah, I think both routes of play are pretty solid here. This is a little bit of a safer play, so to say, right? You guarantee the energy will get discarded in case your Lucario Melmetal can't really put on that pressure next turn and would be unable to fill that, right? They would take 30 damage first, but this guarantees that they'll take 30 less damage before the Steel Fist. And we'll most likely see that get followed up this turn, so pretty much going to be executed in an opposite order of operations as we see. Looking at Chris's list, Chris Jones' list, it is playing a variety of tool cards, 3 Metal Goggles and 2 Cave of Toughness, a card released recently in the, I believe, the Vivid Voltage expansion, if I remembered correctly. Actually, no, Darkness Ablaze, my bad. In Darkness Ablaze, allowing Pokemon that are not GXs and Basics to have 50 more HP. So this will make Zacian a 270 HP monster, minus the 30 from the resistance. And I like this play, the Steel Fist. You really want to target down the tag teams if possible, accelerate the energy, but I don't know if Chris has anything else to follow up this turn with. Only 1 card left in hand.
Yeah, and with this air balloon as well, we could even see a full blitz to accelerate a bunch of energy in play. We could see a bolt storm from the Boltund to throw down a bunch of damage. I feel like just pulling the energy out of the deck is pretty solid here. You can also throw the energies onto the Raichu and Alolan Raichu so that it can build up for a big lightning ride potentially, but looks like Christian just wants to try to get some more damage in play via Bolt Storm. Is going to be 130, so that is enough to get the 2-hit knockout.
I like this play a lot. Usually the Lucario Melmetal in this matchup wants to go for a route where they poke the tag teams and then Zacian has enough output to take the knockouts. In this case, though, hitting into with the Boltund prevents that. As we do see Cynthia Caitlyn come down, it is going to recycle Malilana, such a crucial card in this matchup. Going to be unable to play that, so this Lucario Melmetal will most likely go down unless we see something like a switch into this Zacian. We'll be able to take the knockdown on Boltund. So that is 2 energy removed. First 2 prizes will be taken by Chris, so we'll see how Christian can respond in this case. Again, has multiple options, and really important to note that bench space is now open, which can mean the Tapu Koko can come down, in addition to something like the Dedenne, if this Lightning Energy gets pitched off Quick Ball, which it will, so I'm sure we're going to be seeing that line of play.
Yeah, and we also see Christian has that Chaotic Swell in hand. Chris is playing 2 copies of Power Plants, but with that Chaotic Swell, you'll guarantee that for the rest of the game, the only stadium that's in play is either Chaotic Swell or nothing. So you'll have access to your GX abilities, which is nice, but probably not going to be relevant at this point since we see that Mewtwo and Mew hit the discard pile.
Yeah, another thing to note is Lucario Melmetal does resist Psychic, so that could come into play later on. It's just an extra minus 20 when you're dealing with so many negative, I guess, integers that you're dealing with, right? You deal with the minus 30 on Full Metal Wall, 30 on the Metal Goggles, and then an additional 20. That's minus 80 just from effects alone. That can make things that are usually a 2-shot into close to a 3-shot if we're looking at Full Blitz itself on a Mewtwo and Mew. As well, 2 Crushing Hammers get played, one of them will hit, so that means it looks like 1 energy going to be taken off of the active Zacian V, and we are going to see this Raichu and Raichu, considering retreating actually, into something like this Pikachu and Zekrom, or into something else like the Boltund. That could be a little bit risky, though, especially if that Boltund gets knocked out. It means that there's just 1 boss's orders, and they can play around both these tag team Pokemon in play.
Interesting enough, Christian choosing not to attach at all here at this point. What do you think is going through Christian's mind with this?
I think this is very smart. He realizes there's only 1 more energy in the deck, so regardless if this energy gets attached this turn or next turn, he believes that it's one of the last energy in deck, so it's not really a time crunch to attach it. It just opens up more options of flexibility, which is very important in this matchup where you need to be able to adjust your game plan pretty frequently depending on, I feel, what the Lucario Melmetal player does. Pikachu and Zekrom strategy also as well, but both these players are playing pretty reacting. It's a very important part of the Pokemon trading card game to react and not really play your own game necessarily. As we see Cynthia and Caitlyn will come down, it will get rid of a Zacian V and bring the Marnie back into hand, as well as drawing an additional 3 cards. Chris really needs to find a way to get this Zacian out of the active, if he has a switch in combination with a Metal Energy, we'll be able to use Brave Blade again, as we actually see the energy get attached to the benched Zacian. So this makes me wonder if there is a switch in hand. If not, then we could see this either manual retreat or take the turn to Intrepid Sword, but we also have the possibility of seeing something like a Steel Fist. So Chris has so many different options to put together this turn, so I'm interested to see what line of play he ends up taking.
Yeah, definitely. I think with this attachment, definitely probably did not draw the switch. I wonder if we could have seen a retreat into the doll, just try to hide behind that for a turn. Right now, you're giving up those extra 2 prizes, which is definitely not ideal.
Yeah, and Christian here is going to go ahead and play the reset stamp. Going to take that big turn that Chris had to really build that hand up. Could have even done something like a Steel Fist, which would set the math up on both these tag teams. So is going to decide to finally attach that and take the knockout with Tag Bolt. It is not quite a 2-hit knockout. It is 10 short of being a 2-hit knockout. So wants to just apply pressure right now after that reset stamp. It is a great way. You don't need the full blitz. Something like Lightning Rod GX, the other GX attack you have access to. It's just too much energy to build up. It's pretty unrealistic after something like a Full Metal Wall in combination with having to power up multiple attackers feels. And we will see Chris go ahead and play the Marnie. So we'll reset both these players' hands, shuffle them, put them on the bottom of the deck. Christian will get 4 cards as Chris Jones will draw into 5 cards. And this is sort of where multiple lines of play go in. We are going to see the Lily's Pokédoll go to the bottom of the deck, and the Zacian is actually going to be the choice to come up. And Christian, you see him hovering over the mouse. How many energy are in play? I have to do the math myself, but I think it's close to being able to take a knockout.
Yeah, definitely going to be hitting pretty hard here. Has the switch in hand. I think he should even have 1 more Speed Lightning in the deck, potentially. Going to go ahead and switch into the Raichu here. Gives you the option to Tandem Shock if you want to, and also if you can Bolt Storm for enough here to pick up this knockout. Of course, you need to do 300 damage to knock out this Zacian in 1 hit, thanks to the Full Metal Wall effect as well as the Cape of Toughness. So while Boltund is doing a lot, it is not 300 damage. So it's just going to have to be the option of Paralyze. And now this is where Chris can really come back into this game. If we find things like the Malolana, get some switching moving, try to power up the other Zacian as well. This game is definitely far from over for Chris, even though it does look like Christian's in a solid spot.
Yeah, Boltund only hitting for 250 damage, so not quite, and that would open up the possibility for just a switch to allow them to get knocked out. It's a very important late game, especially as Chris, I believe, has no more ways to get rid of the energy on the Pokemon, as we do see a switch and just an Intrepid Sword, which means this Lily's Pokédoll will stay in the active as Chris sort of takes an off turn to draw some more cards, attach some energy, and this is where things get tricky for Christian. Do you want to take a knockout? Do you want to push a little bit more? Deck out is a potential to look at, so we are going to see Christian actually thin this Boltund out of the deck. Only has 5 cards left in the deck after this research, but is going to go for it. Definitely going to be looking for those Boss's Orders, which Christian is able to find, as we do see the Raichu and Alolan Raichu retreat, and Tandem Shock will not take a prize in this Lily's Pokédoll, acts as a 30 HP basic without giving up any prizes. A very strong card and a great pivot for this Lucario Melmetal deck. So we'll have to see what Chris can apply here. Is not dealing quite enough damage to knock out this Raichu and Alolan Raichu. So that also makes me think back to the play where Chris went ahead and bossed the Raichu up and Steel Fisted. It just seems like not the most relevant damage. You're still going to have to utilize 2 Brave Blades to take a knockout. So I wonder if maybe that's adjustment Chris takes in the next game, as Boss's Orders will bring up and knock out this Pikachu and Zekrom. So Chris will go down to just 1 prize card, but we see Christian has a great response to that in the Reset Stamp card.
Reset Stamp, Boss's Orders, Team Yell Grunt, plenty of options here. I think the main thing being that Reset Stamp is gonna put Chris down to just 1 card, and you can paralyze this active Zacian. You could go for the boss knockout, but if you go for the boss knockout here, you actually do run the risk of your opponent potentially just drawing into a Boss's Orders to get around this Raichu in the active and take the knockout that way.
Yeah, Boltund attacking does not seem the smartest.
No.
I think, yeah, if you just take a knockout with Boltund, they just bring up the other Zacian. Yeah, it has to be the Raichu. So not dealing quite enough. Will be another 130. So Zacian hanging off by the skin of the teeth. 10 HP left. But every HP counts, every hit point counts in the Pokemon trading card game, and this will give Chris an extra turn. And drew into the Marnie off the stamp to 1. Impressive, being able to draw well off of that. Christian will have to find some more pieces, but the big card for Chris is, does a switch come down? As we see an energy hit the bench, there is the switch. So that means this Zacian will come up into the active, and we'll be able to hit this Raichu. It will hang on again, so not going to be enough to take a knockout, but this is where things get tough for Christian. I wonder how many switch he's down to be able to reset that Tandem Shock to paralyze. Otherwise, it seems that Chris has enough things on board to be able to close this game out.
Yeah, I think even if you have a switch and you paralyze here, like you're not winning the game with any one knockout, right? And just eventually your opponent will be able to knock out anything you have in play with Zacian. So Christian going to go ahead and recognize that fact, concedes the game, and is just going to say, I'll go second. We'll go into this next game. And, going second here, trying to find that Bolton using Electrify. Christian's just already probably working through the things they need to do in order to get back into this matchup.
Yeah, it seemed like Chris played that matchup very well, was able to utilize Full Metal Wall to reduce the damage. I wonder if he'll take a little bit of a different approach with, as we talked about before, the Steel Fist plays, and really how to put together and map those prizes out. It's going to be a big part of this game. Again, this matchup just feels so close. It's one of the more exciting matches I feel to watch in the standard format right now. All these matches are super exciting. Hope you guys at home are enjoying all these matches. This will be the last one of the night for us here. So let's go ahead and throw it down to these players here. We're ready to get into game number 2 between Christian Hasbani and Chris Jones. And it looks like Christian will opt to go second yet again. So both of these players want to go their respective turns. And Christian's hand is looking a little bit better than what it was last game.
Has the Dene GX options to draw there, has the energy to attach, quick ball, plenty of choices, as well as, of course, Crushing Hammer, which is what you like to see. Oh, but Chris able to find the power plant right away, takes away some of Christian's options.
So it looks like Tag Call here will go ahead and grab the Lucario Melmetal, as well as the Guzma and Hala, and Intrepid Sword will go ahead and grab 3 more energies. Or 3 more cards, rather. Did not find any metal energies off of the top of the deck, but still was able to draw some more cards and get exactly what you're really looking for on that first turn, which is an attachment to that Lucario and Melmetal.
Yeah, I actually hadn't even noticed until Christian just scrolled through the deck, but playing the full 4 copies of Boltund V, just really recognizing how useful that Electrify attack is. Really wants to start it. Unfortunately, did not quite work out this time. Started that the Dene GX, but due to the power plants, has to go with Crobat here and is gonna be looking for the switch off of this Marnie, it seems.
Yeah, another thing to note, big Crushing Hammerheads will put Chris back a turn. We'll now need to find a Metal Saucer in combination to an attachment and a way to get this Zacian out of the active. And as we do see, Pikachu and Zekrom get grabbed off of the Electromagnetic Radar, and a Marnie get played, and a big grab there finds 2 switching outs, which means the Boltund will be able to electrify. The problem here is Christian does not have much else in the hand.
Yeah, definitely a pretty weak hand at this point, but at least you're throwing some energies down. You can get into the Pikachu and Zekrom. And worst case scenario, next turn, you've got an attachment, you've got a switch, so we can still see a full blitz.
So action is on Chris at this point. Gonna be reset down, has only 5 cards in hand instead of the big hand size that got built up last turn. Metal Saucer, just as I said, will put that energy back. We'll see if there are the pieces there. The Metal Energy and Tag Call at minimum will allow Chris to find a pivot out if choose so, but it looks like eyeing up Guzma and Hala, as well as that Cynthia and Caitlyn, to potentially either find some more special energies out of the deck, which it looks like we will see. There's the Guzma and Hala. We'll discard 2 Boss's Orders to the discard pile, so we know that last card in hand is that Cynthia and Caitlyn. But however, we'll be able to draw back up with this Intrepid Sword this turn, finding another energy, the Giant Cape, or Cape of Toughness, rather. And we will see Chris off to a pretty solid start so far, and there is not much in Christian's hand.
Yeah, I think Chris could have used the Guzma Hala to get a capture energy and gone with that attachment over this basic metal energy. Lucario Melmetal is one of the only, Zacian can't utilize the capture energy to provide energy, right? So you really do need that capture energy if you want to get value from it as far as an energy providing resource as opposed to just getting down Pokemon. You need it to go onto the Lucario and Melmetal in this matchup.
And an interesting choice to not keep any of the boss's orders in hand, especially after Intrepid Sword. This could be a big turn where Full Metal Wall is able to strip this Raichu and Raichu of 3 lightning energies, or apply some pressure. And I actually see this in the Caitlyn. Go ahead and grab one of those, boss. Chris realizes how important those are in any matchup, but specifically in this matchup in combination with things like Full Metal Wall and Steel Fist to set up numbers for the Zacian Vs to clean up and take some knockouts onto Christian's Pokemon.
We'll see if Chris has the switch here. Could go for either the Steel Fist or the Full Metal Wall, or maybe if Chris is just going to have to go with another Intrepid Sword, just another turn of building the hand up, and that indeed looks like the play. Intrepid Sword does find an energy attachment here, which is pretty nice, and Christian's got some options. We've got Switch, we've got Boss's Orders, and it looks like we're just going to go ahead and see that Zacian V be brought up, and Boltstorm doing enough here, 220 exactly, picks up that KO, awarding Christian the first knockout and the first 2 prizes.
Yeah, Christian putting on a little bit more aggression in this game too. Chris, however, is going to be the big turn for him to choose what to do. Has the option to Full Metal Wall. We know there's the boss's orders in hand, so we may see that bring the Raichu up, which we do in fact see, and I'm almost certain this will be paired with something like a Full Metal Wall to remove 3 energies off the board. That's not only going to put Christian down in energies, the Raichu will no longer be able to attack, and additionally, Bolton is going to be hitting for a lot less damage, so 3 positives coming out of just 1 attack here for Chris.
Oh, yeah, this is very, very solid for Chris. And, you know, we'll have to see how Christian reacts. He's going to go ahead and attach the energy to the Raichu and Alolan Raichu. So maybe not really looking to go with full blitz at this point in the game. You're still doing a decent chunk of damage, not totally nerfed as far as your damage output on Christian's side, because there is not a metal goggles on the Lucario and Melmetal, so Boltstorm can still do enough to get the 2-hit KO, and we'll see if Chris is able to find something like maybe a Mallow and Lana plus an energy. That would be probably the ideal 2 cards here, because it lets you heal the Lucario Melmetal and take the knockout.
Switch is still pretty good in this case, right? Allows the Lucario Melmetal to get out of the active. Zacian V going to come up and take a big knockout with that Brave Blade attack. 230 damage. Boltund is down. And we haven't seen Tapu Koko get played yet, but we will have to see Christian really start to take control of this game. It just feels like Chris is slipping away and just applying so much pressure. It's down to 4 prize cards. The prize cards are tied, and we may very well see this Pikachu and Zekrom come up and take a hit in this case. So here we go. It looks like we are going to see the retreat into the Pikachu and Zekrom. Full Blitz will deal 120 damage, so 3 shot on this Zacian V in the active. So action's going to be back on Chris. Again, something like that Malolana would be excellent to heal the damage off the Zacian V, but I'm not quite sure if that is in hand. Oh, just kidding. There it is. The Malolana going to get rid of all the cards in the hand to go into that Lily's Pokédoll and take this turn to Intrepid Sword, build that hand back up again, possibly get some metal energy onto it, which we actually see. So Chris is just taking some time to build the board up, and again, it just feels like this is just, it's unfolding so well for Chris. Christian, on the other hand, it feels like he has to work really hard here to really put everything together.
Yeah, still has that Tapu Koko Prism Star. Pretty key card here. We're going to go ahead and see that come down. It looks like we're actually going to see the Electromagnetic Radar discarding those supporter cards, saying, hey, I don't want to play any of these supporters. I need to draw a new hand and hopefully find a different supporter to work with. Also, of course, wanting to find probably a Boltund V to accelerate energy too, as we do see that is a option that Christian drew into. So we can see the Dance of the Ancients throw a good chunk of damage in play, and it probably still just has to attack with the Pikachu and Zekrom into the Lily's Pokédoll. It doesn't ever really feel good to attack with anything into a Lily's Pokédoll, but you got to deal with them at some point.
Yeah, the main thing here to really look at is you just have to decide what to hit in with. I think it's a loss regardless, right? It never feels good, as you said, take prizes on to the Lily's Pokédoll. The reason we most likely didn't see a Marnie there was to increase the hand size, right? Your opponent only has 2 cards in hand. You know it might not be anything good, so it's just better to maybe play the Dene, take through your deck a little bit more, and try to find a supporter card like Research here, as we'll see what those cards in Chris's hand are. 2 Metal Goggles going to come down into play, and a Brave Blade going to deal 210 damage after the resistance that Pikachu and Zekrom has, so setting up for a 2-hit KO. Can even finish that off with something like the Lucario and Melmetal, as I'm sure it's time for Tandem Shock, especially when your opponent has a 1-card hand. You have to play the outs and pretty much say, hey, there's a very low chance you have that switching card to get that Zacian out of the active. I'm gonna play my outs, and hopefully you don't have it. And even if you do, then it's not the end of the world in this case, as we do see the Marty come down. So Chris will be able to see some cards this turn, possibly put together a combination of cards to be able to hit into this, as Tag Call will be able to grab cards like that Malolana out of the deck, which are, again, so crucial in this matchup.
Definitely a very key card. And let's see if Chris has a switch. Looks like does not. And we'll just see that Intrepid Sword drawing the hand back up, drawing 3 cards there. And Christian here has some options, has a Boss's Orders. We see the Raichu and Alolan Raichu is still active. Even the Speed Lightning Energy, so we could see an attack with a Boltund potentially. You know, plenty of different plays. We'll see how Christian wants to navigate this one. Speed Lightning Energy does allow you to draw 2 cards and actually finds a reset stamp here. Pretty solid, putting the hand back into the deck for Chris, leaving them with just 4 cards.
And looks like a few potential plays here. Boltund will be dealing enough damage to take the knockout onto this Zacian V. So I think just debating whether or not it's worth it to go in with the Boltund. Because at the same time, you do take the knockout, but there's a high chance your opponent has the Metal Energy in hand to take a return knockout onto your Boltund and go down to 2 prizes. But Christian will be the first one to go down to 2 prizes, so just 1 knockout away. But we know sometimes it's hard to take those last couple of prize cards, even when victory is so close. It's pretty much there, but you just got to kind of piece together the cards you need to get there.
We do see Chris get the turn going. Tag Call played for turn. Looks like we're just going to see, I think that was a Guzma Hala there, so maybe just thinning that out of the deck at this point. Probably not much you can get out of there. And yeah, it's just going to be a Marnie. Putting those cards on the bottom off the Tag Call, definitely not things you want to draw into. And the key card here for Chris, do they find a Metal Energy? Do they find a Metal Saucer? And will they be able to knock out this Boltund?
There is the Metal Energy, even going to utilize a switch to not have to put the Lily's Pokédoll to the bottom of the deck, as Brave Blade will take a knockout onto the Boltund. As Chris is going to go down to 2 prizes. However, this just seems like such a tough spot for Christian. That Pikachu and Zekrom is pretty much just a Boss's Orders away from taking the game. I don't know if there's enough here. Is there enough damage to be able to take this? I think there is, actually, with
here
this
from the Tag Bolt GX. We'll be able to pick up this KO. Tag Bolt GX coming down, knocking out the opposing tag team. And Christian, able to come back in this matchup where they lost the first game, will be able to go force the game 3 here, trying to keep it moving at this point.
So a close game 2 there, and it was able, Christian was able to go ahead and take game 2 with a surprise tag bolt at the end. He was able to find the Boss's Orders off that Marnie, take the game. This just feels so close, Chip. What do both these players really need to do to be able to clinch out this important game 3 in the loser's bracket?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. On Chris's side, you know, we were talking about how normally you want to use Full Metal Wall when you're doing it into a tag team to get rid of multiple energy, and that's what Chris did in game 2. But Chris ended up losing game 2. In game 1, Chris got Full Metal Wall off the Boltund and then ended up winning game 2. So it just goes to show this matchup, even, you know, no matter which route you kind of take, it really can be close and go either way. So it's going to come down to those early turn setups. If the Lucario Melmetal player can get off a quick Full Metal Wall into a tag team or get a quick knockout on a Boltund with something like a Zacian V and also draw into those Malolanas in the late game. I think that's something we really haven't seen very much of in this set so far, which is surprising, is Malolana healing a lot of damage, which is normally such a key part. So we'll see how Chris is able to maneuver it, and then also on Christian's side, of course, I think hoping to go second here, hoping to get that Electrify off, and hoping to get a bunch of energies in play and try to do a bunch of damage with Bolt Storm and also paralyze some of Chris's Pokemon.
Yeah, this should definitely be an exciting game for you guys. I'm looking forward to it. This should be a super cool game 3 to watch. So let's go ahead and get down into the action. Again, the battle of the Chris's. Christian up against Chris. I assume the coin flips are going to go the same way. I believe Chris opted to go first in game number 3 here. So Chris will go ahead and get things started. This is sort of a tough position. I guess you definitely want to start the Tapu Koko over the Pikarom, but you're going to have to get rid of a lot of lightning energies, and you really don't want to do that in this matchup where you really need all the energies you have. And Chris is actually going to go ahead and start the Aegislash in there for that Decidueye deck, which we featured earlier with Kevin Kruger, but it is one of the worst Pokemon to have in pretty much every other matchup.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't have Intrepid Sword, so it makes it not a very good Pokemon to have out early on. And we don't even see an energy come down on Chris's side, which is definitely unfortunate. Normally, you'd see this hand from Christian and be like, okay, we're working, we're getting some energies down. We can utilize Dance of the Ancients and try to pull some plays off. But in reality, in this matchup, your energy cards are honestly your most important resource. It's how you do damage with Boltund in the late game. It's how you can get energies out of the deck with Full Blitz. It's how you power up your Raichu and Alolan Raichu. And because your opponent can just limit those in play with something like a Full Metal Wall, discarding a bunch early on is definitely tough.
Yeah, we don't see much from Christian. Just has to attach the Speed, Lightning Energy, and pass. Does have a few Crushing Hammer in hand, which is definitely going to be useful to prevent this Lucario Melmetal from getting set up, as Guzma and Hala will be the supporter for turn, is going to grab that Power Plant, Metal Goggles, and a Special Energy out of the deck, as he'll just go ahead and pass the turn over back to Christian. So many pieces in his hand you don't want to get rid of. There are 3 Crushing Hammer.
Wow.
We could start to play the coin flip game very quickly here, as this first Crushing Hammer hits heads, so no need to play the other 2. Sets the Lucario Melmetal back another turn, and we could just see Christian take the turn to manually power up Full Blitz. We've seen it time and time again. This Pikarom deck, since the release, has just had ways via the Thunder Mountain Prism Star card, and we still have Tapu Koko to just get powered up so quickly. So it feels so strange almost to see this Pikarom take 3 turns to get powered up.
Yeah, Christian could have, used the double switch in hand and moved the Mewtwo to the active and then used Tapu Koko to get the energy on Pikachu and Zekrom. And I think a lot of people would see that and be like, why wouldn't you want to go with Full Blitz right away? But it really would not be a good call on Christian's side, because then you're just opening up your Pikachu and Zekrom to get a ton of energy discarded off of it. You're giving your opponent a lot. You're only getting 1 energy out of the discard pile, right, with Dance of the Ancients as well, which is definitely not what you want to do. So it looks like it's just going to be a slower approach on Christian's side, and it's paying off pretty nicely. Has a solid setup. Even if you get Full Metal Wall done to this Pikachu and Zekrom GX, you've got the Raichu and Alolan Raichu ready to paralyze the Lucario and Melmetal.
And a big thing to note is 2 for 2 on Crushing Hammer. The second one hits, and we'll get rid of that coating energy on the Lucario Melmetal. So again, every turn step back, and you have to play another Guzma and Hala to get yet another special energy down. If this 3rd Crushing Hammer hits, that would be 3 turns pretty much gone to waste from Chris, but will, however, be able to end the turn with the Intrepid Sword thanks to that capture energy. Sort of wonder why it didn't get grabbed a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think Chris maybe missequenced things a little bit there, attached a Metal Energy, then played the Guzma Hala last turn. Definitely could have gotten your attachment done via the capture energy, right? But over onto Christian's side, looks like we're just going to see the Boltund come out. Of course, that Lily's Pokédoll, like we mentioned, it's in the active spot. Not really something you want to be hitting into. And that 3rd Crushing Hammer hits heads and limits the energy Chris has in play. And a Marnie as well is going to limit the cards in hand.
Yeah, it feels like Crushing Hammer is almost the best card in this format when it flips heads. An energy removal for an item card. I know it's a wild thing to say, but in this case, it's just so strong to be able to remove an energy off the game. Obviously, only allowed to attach 1 energy card per turn. So, especially against a deck that can take some time to get set up if it can't find its Metal Saucers or get Zacian down quickly. It's a perfect card against this. We even see Team Yellgrunt being super useful in this matchup. Christian hasn't really utilized it here, but if your opponent is off to a little bit of a slower start and then you don't really have another supporter to play, it's not the worst thing in the world. Just set your opponent back a turn.
Yeah, Yellgrunt is something that is super good, super situationally, right? Like, it can be very strong, but it has to be the exact right time.
Yeah, so action's going to be back on Christian. 2 Boss's Orders in hand, as well as the Eldegoss. We could see this go ahead and grab something like the Marnie, which we will see wants to put those bosses in the bottom of the deck for later on, as this will be enough to take the first 2 prizes of the game yet again onto this Aegislash V. Looking at the hand for Christian, has a few other cards to look at, but I think is content for now just to utilize Full Blitz. Doesn't even, has the option here to grab the extra energy. We will just see that go ahead and get grabbed onto Eldegoss. I don't hate this play. You could also have the, there is also the line of play where you just save the energy, right? And don't do anything, as you could just save that for the later attachment, as Eldegoss is really never going to be attacking in this matchup. It resists Zacian resists grass, so if there's a Full Metal Wall, it actually will deal 0 damage. So energy could be useful somewhere else, but I think maybe Christian feels he's in such a dominant position so far with how this game is going that it's okay to attach an extra energy. So Marty will get played, and this is definitely going to be the time where Full Metal Wall is going to take a bunch of energy off of this Pikachu and Zekrom.
Yep, Full Metal Wall, definitely ideal there. That's what you want to do, is take a bunch of energies off of a tag team Pokemon. Interesting, Christian could have thrown the Air Balloon onto this Pikachu and Zekrom. It's a little awkward because it has 3 retreat as opposed to just the normal 2 retreat that you see on a lot of the other Pokemon in the deck. So you can't get the perfect, free retreat with just throwing down the Air Balloon. But at least it would give you the option if you drew into something like a energy that you could attack with Tandem Shock this turn.
Yeah, I don't know how many switch Christian is down, but is looking for that switch out of the deck. Does not find it initially, and that's a few cards you really don't want to get rid of. A bunch of Boltund. You really don't want to discard Boss unless necessary, but Research is going to go ahead and discard the hand. Big 7 cards, but there's no switch. Which
Speed
means,
Lightning.
Speed Lightning does find the Air Balloon, though, so this Pikachu and Zekrom can manually retreat. Again, that's just another energy down. It's going to be less damage that Bolt Storm is hitting for. Tapu Koko has not been utilized yet, so we'll be able to bring 2 energy back. Have to double check if there is 2 lightning in there. I assume there is. I believe 3 hit the discard pile on the first turn of the game.
Yeah, and it looks like Christian was also down 3 switch as well, I'm pretty sure. So Air Balloon really kind of the only option. And Christian is really kind of agonizing over this, doesn't really want to discard the energy, right? Kind of like you said, it's so important to boost your damage output from the Boltund. But unfortunately, it's better than just passing, that is for sure.
So Bolt Storm, with all the damage reductions, is still going to deal 190 damage. Is still going to be dealing enough to two-shot this Lucario and Melmetal, as we see a second energy be attached to the bench Zacian V, and there, as we said, such an important card in this matchup. Mallow and Lana will be able to heal this Lucario and Melmetal, prevent it from being two-shot, and we could just see this Lily's Pokédoll come up and take the turn to build the hand up, which it looks like Chris is going to go ahead and do.
Yeah, you could be defensive here. Just go with the Intrepid Sword, and that looks like Chris's option. Going to go ahead and draw some extra cards. Christian does have a Boss's Orders, so we can go ahead and bring that Zacian V up there, and we can hit it pretty hard, but it's not going to be enough to knock it out. So Christian going to go ahead and choose to utilize the Tandem Shock for the turn, and this is where if Chris was lucky enough to draw into the next Mallow and Lana, oh, looks like they're actually both in the discard pile. Okay, so it's going to have to be the one last switch card, the only way Chris can get out of paralysis this turn.
Yeah, and even if you do, this Zacian that you've taken turns to build up will go down. I think maybe the most optimal, I think the Cynthia Caitlyn is still in deck, and there it is. So we'll go ahead and get rid of the tag call. Most of the tag team cards in Chris's deck have already been played or in the discard pile. So we will go ahead and see that card be the discard effect of Cynthia Caitlyn. Gonna grab the Malolana back and draw 3 additional cards out of the deck. There is the second Zacian coming down, and no switch. So the Zacian will just have to go ahead and Intrepid Sword, finding 0 metal energy on top. So Christian has to really find the last out to this, but Chris is hitting with the well played. So it looks like there are only 3 cards left in deck, but Marty is going to go ahead and throw some more cards back in. And yeah, I think they're both acknowledging that I think Chris doesn't really see a line to really win this game, and it looks like he's going to go ahead and scoop things up, and Christian will go ahead and advance the next round.
Yeah, it looks like Christian, even if Chris isn't necessarily conceding the game here, Christian's just in an incredible position. You've got all these energies in play. Boltund is doing a ton of damage, and Chris has no energies on a Zacian V on the bench. So, yeah, and it looks like Chris is just going to go ahead and concede. Christian will be moving on, still trying to make that